Technical Avenue.
Stack-based buffer overflow exploits are the most common form of exploit for remotely taking over the code execution of a process. These exploits were extremely common 20 years ago, but since then, a huge amount of effort has gone into mitigating stack-based overflow attacks by operating system developers, application developers, and hardware manufacturers, with changes even being made to the standard libraries developers use. Here I will demonstrate how stack-based overflow works. Understanding stack-based overflow attack involves at least a basic understanding of computer memory. Memory in a computer is simply a storage space for data and instructions data for storing numbers, letters, images, and anything else, and instructions that tell the computer what to do with the data. Both are stored in the same memory because memory was prohibitively expensive in the early days of computing, and reserving it for one type of storage was wasteful. Such an approach where data and instructions are stored together is known as one Neumann architecture. It is still in use in most computers to this day, though as you will see, it's not without complications. On the bright side, while security was not a driving factor in early computer and software design, engineers realized that changing running instructions in memory was a bad idea. So even as long as the 90s, standard hardware and operating systems were doing a good job of preventing changes to instructional memory. Unfortunately, you don't really need to change instructions to change the behavior of running program, and with a little knowledge, writable data memory provides several opportunities and methods for affecting instruction execution. See this example. The interesting thing about this program is that it creates two buffers in memory called real password and given password as local variables. Each buffer has space for 20 characters. When we run the program, the space for these local variables is created in memory and specially stored on the stack with all other local variables. The stack is very structured sequential memory space, so the relative distance between any two local variables in memory is guaranteed to be relatively small. After this program creates the variables, it populates the real password value with a string, then prompts the user for a password and copies the provided password into given password value. Once it has both passwords, it compares them. If they match, it prints success. If not, it prints failure. Here we run the program. This is exactly as we expected. The password we entered does not match the expected password. There is catch here. The programmer made several real bad mistakes. Before we cover that, let's open the debugger and peek into memory to see what this stack looks like in memory while the program is executing. At this point, the program has taken in the data and compared it, but I added an interrupt in the code to stop it before exiting so we can look at the stack. Debuggers let us see what the program is doing and what the memory looks like in a running basis. In this case, we are using the GNU debugger. The GDB command in frame allows us to find the location in memory of the local variables which will be on the stack. Now we know where the local variables are, we can print that area of memory. As mentioned, the stack is sequentially stored data. If you know ASCII, then you know the letter A is represented in memory by the value of 61 and the letter D is 64. You can see that they are right next to each other in memory. The real password buffer is right after the given password buffer. Now let's talk about the mistakes that the programmer made. First, developers should never ever use the gets function because it does not check to make sure that the size of the data it reads in matches the size of the memory location it uses to save the data. It just blindly reads the text and dumps into the memory. Let's now exploit gets function and see whether we can hack the program. Since we know gets function has problem with reading more than it should, the first thing to try is to give it more data than the buffer can hold. The buffers are 20 characters, so let's start with 30 characters. We can see clearly that there are 30 instances of A's in memory, despite us only specifying space for 20 characters. We have overflowed the buffer, but not enough to do anything. Let's keep trying and try 40 instances of A's. The first thing to notice is that we went far enough to pass through the allotted space for given password and managed to alter the value of real password, which is huge success. We didn't alter it enough to fool the program though. Since we are comparing 20 characters and we wrote 8 characters to the real password buffer, we need to write 12 more characters. So let's try again, but with 52 instances of A's this time. Success. We overflow the buffer for given password and the data went straight into real password, so that we were able to alter the real password buffer to whatever we wanted before the check took place.
And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion cruise.